A Vietnam War veteran warns Australia's unsung military heroes will be forgotten and veterans will be silenced under controversial changes proposed by the Albanese government. Our political correspondent Cameron Redden is live with me. Cam, this is the latest impassioned plea for the government to abandon this law that they introduced to Parliament.
Yeah, what we're talking about here, Kieran, is a suite of proposed reforms to a body known as the Defence Honours and Awards Appeals Tribunal. This is a body that hears challenges to decisions either to award or to withhold a military medal. But critically, it's the body involved in honouring retrospective awards. So think in recent cases where many decades have gone by, in particular with the two most recent Victoria Crosses being awarded after 70 years in one case, 55 years in another, where new information has emerged. Friends, veterans and family members have advocated over many years and ultimately that award has been provided. But the government is trying to change the process for how this body operates, and we can show you the changes that it has put through the House of Representatives. It's gone to a Senate inquiry as well and is awaiting a vote in the Senate. Right now, awards can be reviewed and awarded retrospectively all the way back to World War II, but the changes put forward by the government would put just a 20-year window on when awards can be reviewed. So in practical terms, if it happened before about 2003 or so, or 2005 in the most recent times, then those awards would not be up for reconsideration. It would also narrow the number of people who could launch a review to get a reward retrospectively and also prevent an appeal to those decisions beyond 6 months. At that Senate inquiry held last week, of more than 60 submissions, only one argued in favour of these changes. That came from the Department of Defence itself. Sky News has spoken to one veteran of many who's a Vietnam War veteran. His name is George Hulse. He was at the forefront of lobbying and campaigning for one of his comrades, Richard Norton, to be awarded the Victoria Cross last year after more than 50 years had passed since his act of bravery. He spoke exclusively to me a short time ago about why he believes these laws would not only restrict unsung heroes being honoured properly, but would also cause harm to the veteran community and risk those who deserve proper recognition not being able to get it.
What they want to do, that is, Defence has convinced the Minister to put a bill up where anybody before the Iraqi and Afghanistani wars cannot now put in an application for a retrospective award. So that cuts out thousands and thousands of veterans going right back to the 3rd of September 1939. We are supposed to be the land of the fair go. So if we discover that we've got a real hero that hasn't been recognised, we've got to stand up for these people because a lot of them can't stand up for themselves.
You've had a lot of exposure to this process. You know how it works. It's not perfect, but in your view, what would these changes, if they're realised, mean to veterans like yourself who've been fighting for your mates for so long?
I wrote 8 Australian Defence Force personnel of the Vietnam era up for retrospective awards. I put them up to Defence, and Defence rejected every last one of them. One of them was Private Richard Norton. I took Defence to the tribunal. Of the 8 rejections, I won 7 of the 8, and Defence don't like it. And they want people like me silenced. And that's what it is. It's a regressive, repressive, oppressive piece of legislation from a government that calls itself progressive.
The Defence Minister, Richard Marles, the Veterans Affairs Minister, Matt Keogh, they'll be watching this interview. What would your message be to them?
I've already written a book, and I've written Matt Keogh into it to say that, in my opinion, he's a nice guy. I know him. In my book, I've said to him that I probably owe him a beer, right? Because in the end, we got the Victoria Cross through for Richard Norton. So I probably owe him a beer. What I've promised him, and I've written him a letter to say this, that if he pulls this legislation out, I'll owe him 2 beers. So he's on. To Richard Marles, you carried the Victoria Cross from the UK to Australia, and you told me how proud you were to carry that Victoria Cross. Well, I'm telling you something, Mr. Marles. Had this legislation been in vogue 2 years ago, you would never have picked up that Victoria Cross. You would never have felt so proud as you did that day in Rockhampton. So pull this legislation. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. And that's my message to the 2 ministers.
You can hear the passion in his voice there, Kieran. George Hulse, one of more than a dozen veterans Sky News has spoken to who want this bill pulled. It's passed the House. The government yet to set a date for when it will go to a vote in the Senate.